Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
We all have three stock backgrounds and none of them are the same.
Good. That is important.
David Caraothers. Love this.
Been a long
forever.
Been forever.
I don't know how I've lived without you guys.
Less than 24 hours since we were on one of the most exceptional podcasts that you can listen to.
Yes.
In the insurance space, I think there's two competing. The rest, no need. But we are super, super glad to have David Caraothers back, who's a mastermind in the commercial space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we did his podcast yesterday, the Power Producers. So if you haven't listened, you have to jump on in and do some heavy lifting over there with the powerful producers. But before that, or while we were talking, David, you started talking about a little funnel that you had that you have on with automation for a little policy that people might make fun of you for. But it starts this funnel where you hit some automation with it. Next thing you know, they might become customers. So you actually get paid for your leads.
Seems like he's the last one laughing here.
Yeah, man, it's pretty cool. It's funny because we got several of those funnels built up. The one that I shared with you yesterday is the one that has been the most successful so far. Unfortunately, when that one took off, we decided it would be a great idea to build funnels around gyms and childcare facilities. Go COVID, right? So my ability to create funnels is only superseded by my ability to be clairvoyant. But we've developed quite a few niche markets. That was the prototype for us. And once we got that landing page built and sort of the architecture of how things were going to flow through it, we can replicate that across a bunch of different lead sources. So it's not captive to wedding insurance per se, but that just seemed to be one that was a natural for us because Progressive wants young married couples these days, in the independent channel. And I just had gotten a Progressive contract. So that's how I solved the problem.
That's so cool. And I love the thought. So can you kind of, for anybody that didn't listen, that hasn't yet listened to the Power Producers, can you take us through what is that funnel?
Yeah, sure. So, my goal in anything that I do is always to be one off of what you think I'm doing so that you never know what I'm really doing.
Yes.
Right. And so there may be an end game. There may be a front game. It's up to you to figure out which one it is. But in this case, it's a front game. And so, our agency specializes in middle market commercial business. Our average accounts are between 250 and 500,000 in premium. So for me to be screwing around with a wedding insurance website or whatever else, is somewhat laughable. I can understand, but a lot of my friends are busting my chops about, the fact that I've got this, that we own Florida wedding insurance. And one thing I didn't talk about yesterday is I don't just own Florida wedding insurance. I own FloridaWeddingInsurance.com, TampaWeddingInsurance.com, Naples, Fort Myers, the Keys, and all of them point to that funnel. So we're going to every major wedding destination in Florida, which is basically any city in Florida because it's a huge destination state. And we bought the domains to point back to that same landing page. And so the idea behind it was to get a quote bind issue product for liability out and available to people so that we didn't have to touch it. It became a passive income stream for us. But in the process of building that, we realized that instead of us just making a passive income stream, it would be better to have a passive income stream that was also a lead source to a much larger income stream relative to what we're getting. So the way that the program's set up, we are allowed to net the commissions out of the placement of the policy. So we take a $50 program administration fee from the group that we're doing this with. And so every time we sell a quote bind issue, wedding liability policy, we make $50. Well, the first thing that got real is when we started moving like 6 to 8 of these things a day. And I ran the numbers and I'm like, holy crap, man, this is like $100,000 a year job that I'm not even having to show up for. This is awesome.
Yeah.
But we use HubSpot as our CRM in the agency. So, we're pretty hip to automation. I'm a huge fan of using video as much as you can. We've been using video for years before COVID ever hit, whether it be for video proposals or marketing or just general content. And so we created a sequence around that so that when somebody bought the wedding product, it took them to a thank you page that began an automation sequence with me basically welcoming them to the Florida Risk Partners family, thanking them for the opportunity to do business with them, and then letting them know that while we're not going to be obnoxious about it, we are going to remind them about other milestones in their life that might happen over the next little bit. And so we have the anniversary date, the date of the wedding, is automatically pulled into HubSpot because everything is based off of that. So at predetermined times between the time they purchase the policy and their wedding, they'll get reminder emails from us about probably worth looking at your homeowners, probably worth updating your auto, make sure that you've looked at life and disability, make sure that the ring is covered or the rings are covered, and all of those things. And so it became a really nice lead source for a very young personal lines division in our agency. And, people, again, you know how it is, locker room, whatever, guys are going to bust each other's chops. I was constantly getting made fun of that I'm screwing around with this. But at the end of the day, I look at it this way. We drive traffic to those landing pages through search and display ads. And, I have a Google budget. It's not high. I spend about $100 a month to drive traffic. We're the number one ranked site on Google for Florida wedding insurance. And so as long as I'm spending less money on my ad spend than what I'm making on the revenue for the wedding policies, everybody else who's making fun of me is paying to get leads, and I'm getting paid to get leads. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong.
I love it. And I love it because I thought this message should be shared because it's more of a thought process rather than the specifics of that. But like insurance, man, we can insure so many different things. We have so much knowledge that other people need that it's so good to go narrow on something and ascend them up, right? That you don't have to, like, we're told for so many years that, hey, bring somebody into the agent, us P&C guys, you know what I mean? And then just sell them everything. And it's like, dude, if somebody's coming in for auto insurance, they don't necessarily want quotes on everything that day, right? We need to think more of, hey, I love, RVing, right? Well, why not go into that niche and then ascend them up into my funnel, right? Or I love the wedding insurance, but there's probably 100 variations of that that we can do. And I really I love how you're doing that. I think that's so cool.
I will tell you who the niche master is, and if you haven't had him on the show, you should. But it's Mr. Bob Klinger from up in Maryland, and you should reach out to Bob and talk to him because this guy, his niche game is off the charts. Like, he started out with dry cleaners, and he just branched out from dry cleaners to Asian restaurants, to the people who were doing the equipment sales to the dry cleaners in the Asian restaurants, to the people who were cleaning the vent hoods and the grease traps. Like, now, if you have an Asian owned business in his area of Maryland outside of DC and you want to get insurance, it's just call Bob. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they tell everybody. And it's funny because, I mean, this guy is really, really smart. I mean, I respect him a lot. I appreciate how he's built his agency, but he actually went to school. I didn't even know this was such a thing. He went to college and got a degree in dry cleaning.
That's a thing?
Huh.
That's a thing. And the reason why he picked dry cleaning, or what I should say, the reason why a lot of the Korean people and the Asian people who come over pick dry cleaning is because they don't have to know a lot of English. Please, thank you. They give the total in numbers, which is a universal language. That's it. So you have low barriers of entry for these people to come over and start these businesses, and he figured that out. But what he's morphed his agency into as a result of that is just insane. I mean, he's running a multi-million-dollar revenue agency as a result.
I love that. And who would ever think that hoods in dry cleaners would be something to focus on, right? When there's so much stuff, everybody tries to be everything to everybody. And it's like, well, you're not going to be very good. Jack of all trades, but master of none.
I tell people all the time, man, we are so pigeonholed into being salespeople, right? And I don't like that. I don't like that moniker. I think that, I don't want to be the insurance salesman. When I think insurance salesman, I think Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. Right?
I just watched that.
That's the guy that everybody thinks that we are, though, right? I mean, if you say, hey, I'm an insurance agent. Oh, no, thanks. I'm good.
Bye.
But, at the end of the day, we tie our compensation to the sale of a product. And if you change the way that you look at things and you make your job about solving problems, the sale of the product becomes the funding mechanism for them to have your problem solving capabilities.
Yep. Love it.
And so that's how we focus. That's the difference between a trusted advisor and a salesperson.
Yep.
100%.
And that's what in the captive market, that's what how they always tell us to sell is based on value and stuff, right? But like, if solving problems is a value, that is being human. That's like helping someone. It's so funny. Why is it when we put on our sales hat, we sell and we're not human anymore? And it's like, whether it be the way we answer our phone or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Like just talking to somebody real and being empathetic. And those are the things that actually sell more than selling. Is being
100%.
empathetic and solving their problems, and the sales follow that, not the sale, and then you do that stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's nuts. I mean, right now, my agency leads with workers' compensation. It's easy for us to lead with workers' compensation in Florida because we have filed rates with the state. The state determines what the rate of the policy is. If I went to 100 different carriers, as long as I have the right payrolls by class code, my quote is going to be identical across 100 carriers. There's no competitive advantage, and we don't have scheduled credits and debits that can be filed against those rates that are material enough to where it's like it is in other states where there's pricing competition. So the competition becomes an experience modification factor. And that's what we do. We visit the sick. We prospect people who have experience mods that are 1.0 or higher because we know that if we go in and we talk to them, we can help them recover some significant financial inefficiencies inside of their operation. That's a problem. And it's a problem that a lot of agencies aren't addressing because they don't want to learn how to go deep into the mod and understand the math behind it and then create the business case that you can relay to a CFO to get them to make the buying decision, right? Well, unfortunately, I've been doing that fortunately and unfortunately, I've been doing that for the last, 4 or 5 years. And I think people that I come into contact with throughout the industry think I'm a one-trick pony when it comes to workers' comp. That's not the case. That's just the problem that I'm solving now. When I first started my career 15 years ago, we had 4 hurricanes come through, and the eye passed over my house of all 4 of them, and the issue became property insurance. And so the problem that I needed to solve was, how do I help you get admitted property insurance? And I found out very quickly that Chubb was the only regular carrier that would write on admitted paper. Everybody was pulling out of Florida left and right. Like there was literally nobody. Probably 60 to 70% of the homeowners were in Citizens, which is the state fund, and commercial was all in excess and surplus lines. So all I did was I went into Chubb and said, okay, you guys are writing admitted property. I'm brand new at this. I don't know if I'm doing it right or not, but figures to me that if I can get in front of some people and your product, I'm going to be able to solve a problem that's going to lead to me getting a lot of business. What do you like to write? And they said, look, we like light manufacturing, technology, life sciences, and Department of Defense contractors, as long as it's masonry, non-combustible construction from 1996 or newer. Okay, great. Let's take that and run with it. So what I did was I decided light manufacturing around our area is pretty good. I went to the tax collector's website and I did an export of everybody who had paid for an occupational license to be a manufacturer in Hillsborough and Pinellas County. And then I took that list and I went to Reference USA, which is a free tool from the library. And I researched everybody's company to see what their revenues were, how many employees they had, because I wanted to hit a certain threshold, and I trimmed everybody off the bottom half of that list. And then I went to the property appraiser's website to verify they had 1996 or newer masonry non-combustible construction. And that's what I worked on. I made that spreadsheet, and in 12 months' time, I went from having no book of business. Literally, I had no book of business. I was brand new in the industry to writing $457,000 in agency revenue. It was over $3 million in premium that I wrote. And we didn't even get through the letter E on my list. That was just A, B, C, D, and half an E. So point being, find the problem. I don't care what you're selling. Quit selling it. Right. Find the problem or the need that you need to meet and focus on doing that.
Right.
I love that.
There's a mindset of I have the product. Now I have to educate them so that they'll understand what I have and then want to buy it. And it seems a lot more challenging than just finding the issue and solving for it.
Well, and the other thing, I mean, flip the script a little bit in the personal lines world. One of the most successful personal lines people that I know is Jason Kilgo up in Virginia. Kilgo leads with umbrella. Okay. Think about that. If you lead with umbrella, you automatically get to see what the home and auto looks like, so that if you're going to try and get all three of them, you're doing that in a way that doesn't require you to be a pushy salesperson. You need to do it because this person has some liability concerns, needs an umbrella for it. Might as well quote the rest of the stuff, since you're going to have the underlying coverage to put under the umbrella anyhow. And they kill it doing that.
Yep. You're going to have to raise those limits on those other policies. So
yeah, you're going to raise them and they're going to go up too.
Yeah. I love it. Think from the back end rather than from the front end.
So much easier.
How many times?
It doesn't matter what you're doing in life, man. It's anything that you approach. If I liken it to if you start on the back end and work your way toward the front to create a defined path, it's a whole lot easier than standing at the edge of a cornfield and trying to find your way to that back end with nothing but a machete. What are the chances you're going to actually end up where you're supposed to be? Start at the back, work your way forward, and breaking it down into actionable steps. It's no different. I mean, you can, if you really wanted to do it the way that you should, you can say, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year. Great. Well, how many accounts do I need to have to do that? Well, how many people do I have to meet with to get that many people to buy from me? And how many people do I have to quote to get that many people to meet with me? How many people do I have to call to let me quote? Then you can dial it into, well, I need to make 57 calls a day. I mean, I don't know what the number is, but that's what people don't do. They're so worried about figuring out the quickest way to get from point A to point B. I tell my team all the time, you have to slow down to speed up. If you slow down and figure everything out, you're going to always work more efficiently if you have your process identified and easily replicated than if you're just shooting from the hip every time you turn around.
There's a lot of shooting from the hip in this business.
Tons, which makes it easy for us to compete.
Right. Yeah. Well, and just massive amounts of dials doesn't equal result, right? Because if you don't know what that result is or where you want to go, then who cares? Because you could get sitting here making all these dials, doing all these things and say, I did a ton, we were slammed, we wrote a bunch, but it's still, where is the goal? I love the cornfield analogy and working backward, but that's 100% correct. Figure out what you want to make, right? Figure out what you need to bring in, and you can define exactly what you need.
Yeah,
and that is the beauty of this business.
Yeah, knowing that personal lines operates differently than we do in commercial. I mean, typically when people in commercial prospect, they're looking at 60 to 90 days before renewal, right? That's when they start hammering the phones. You know when I hammer the phones? A month or two after they renewed. Why do I do that? I do that
less competition.
Number one, there's less competition. Is it more difficult for me to get appointments then? Absolutely. But if I get them, there's almost 100% chance I'm going to close them. The reason why I like it a month or two after renewal is because if the renewal was bad, it still stings. They remember that. And emotionally, they're going to be willing to take a meeting. If they have already had their audit, I can get the audited payrolls and everything that I need to do some of my analysis. If they haven't, I can offer to help guide them through that. And then I've got 7 or 8 months. Oh, the other thing's loss data, right? So if they had to have loss runs to get through the renewal process, all of that data is still credible because it's only a month or two old. I don't have to go back because the loss runs are 5 months old and ask them to go contact their current agent to get loss information. They've already got it sitting on their desk. So we can get those things and begin to work with them. And we're in there working with people 6 months before anybody else even thinks about kicking the tires. And by the time renewal time comes, we've already had the deal on lockdown and we're named agent of record before anybody else has a chance to compete.
I love it. I love it. The strategy behind it is really where the gold is.
Yeah, it's just thinking differently than everybody else does. I mean, I'm not interested in working hard. I want to work smart. I've said my entire career, I don't want to make 10 phone calls to get one appointment. I want to make one phone call and get 10 appointments. That's why I like to leverage webinars and lunch and learns and all of the other things I can do where I can show up one time and have an audience of 25 or 30 people.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
30 times the results from the same amount of work.
What is your biggest piece of advice that you're giving agents, newer agents that come to you and say, how do you do it, man? Like, what do I need to do? I'm new.
So it's funny. I tell people the same thing every single time. Number one, I think that they need to get some level of product knowledge. You need to go get a basic foundation of insurance understanding. You don't need to know everything up front because chances are you're not brand new in the industry and starting a scratch agency. You've got resources at your agency that can help you with coverage and things like that. But I think that the thing that most people struggle with, specifically in commercial, but I don't think that it's any different when in personal lines, is just interacting with whoever the buyer is, right? And I mean, I go back to, and I tell this story all the time, but I go back to the very first really big account that I ever called on. I was 30 years old. The account was $750,000 in premium. And I was sitting in the parking lot, physically sick to my stomach, looking at this place like, I have no business talking to these people. Why are they, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, they have mechanical breakdown. What is mechanical breakdown? I mean, all of this stuff. And I basically just came to a realization. I jerked a knot in my own rear end. And I'm like, look, dude, they've already validated your existence by agreeing to spend time with you for an hour. The only person that doesn't think you belong here is you. Get it through your head that you belong here. Get out there and close the deal. That's it. We psych ourselves out. It doesn't matter if it's a $750,000 commercial account that I was scared to walk in the front door, or a $750 personal lines policy, and I don't want to make the phone call because I'm scared somebody might answer on the other end and I don't know what to say to them.
Right. Come up with all the reasons why you can't be successful when all you need to do is just go there and be successful.
Find one reason why you can.
Right.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to screw it up.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So how did that appointment go?
I killed it.
You killed it? There you go.
Love it.
Went in, again, man, I do a lot of research. When you're calling on accounts like that, you're not hunting with a shotgun. You're hunting with a rifle. Yeah. And, again, a lot of people don't understand, they think that our agency has grown to the size that it is. We do about $3.5 million in agency revenue, roughly. Probably, I don't ever even look at premium because premium doesn't pay the bills. Revenue does. But we're probably like 25 million in premium, 25, 30 million in premium, something like that. Heavily weighted on workers' comp, which is a lower commission percentage. So that drags it down a little bit. But, I look at it and if I wrote 24 accounts in a year, it's a banner year for me. That's a best in class year for me, but I'm also writing accounts that are paying at least 25 grand a pop. So of course that's a banner year. Right. But it's, I went into that account and I killed it because I had done my research. And when you're going after accounts like that, and you know that you only need to get a certain number every year to have a banner year, you spend the time on the front end researching. It's not a transactional sale, and you're never going to sell value in a transaction. You sell value in a relationship, and you have to start building that before your opportunity to drive value comes. I had done all my research. I realized that this particular company was facing a zoning issue. They were getting forced zoned into an unincorporated. They were in an unincorporated portion of Pinellas County, and they were getting zoned into the city of Largo. And it was going to be a very negative financial event for them. I knew that from reading that the person I was meeting with was leading the charge for that. And I literally walked into the first appointment. I could tell that he was, frustrated. He's like, all right, let's go ahead and get this over with. I don't remember exactly what he said, but that's basically what came out of his mouth. And I said, listen, I understand you think I'm probably here to sell you insurance today, and I'd love to talk to you about your risk management program. But I wanted to start the meeting off by letting you know I've been following everything that's going on in the media, and I know this has to be taking a toll on you. This zoning thing is ridiculous. I've got your back. If there's anything I can do, if you need me to get people to sign petitions, whatever we can do, just let me know. For the next 25 minutes, this guy did nothing except vomit his personal relationship, his business relationship, how it was straining his family. I mean, we just went deep. He forgot what I was there for.
That's
But I
awesome.
sat and listened to what he had to say. And he's like, now let's talk about this other. I said, listen, I'm going to be respectful of your time. I don't want to force myself on you. We can schedule another meeting for me to come back. I said, but what I really wanted to talk to you about was this. And he goes, well, I think we've got that stuff under control a little bit. And I said, well, listen, I have reason to believe you don't, and I'm not going to ask you for a bunch of stuff, but if you could just get me, your loss runs and a copy of your experience mod worksheet, I'd like to go ahead and run a mod analysis for you. And I'll make a gentleman's agreement with you. If I can't help you, I'm not even going to ask you for more of your time. I'll just pick up the phone or shoot you an email and let you know, look, you're great where you're at. If you're not, then I'm going to ask you to meet with me so I can come in and present my findings. And I'm going to let you know right now, I'm also going to ask you to hire me so that you understand that's the expectation on the next meeting.
Love it.
And so he said, well, let me see if I can get that stuff, blah, 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 blah. Well, so it started off because his experience mod was a 0.86. Well, 1 is average. And he was thinking he was doing awesome. When we ran the software report, we basically looked and saw that his minimum mod was a 0.64. So this guy was spending $500,000 a year on his workers' comp and leaving 22 points of possible improvement on the table to the tune of almost $100,000. And he didn't know any better because he thought he had done good enough. And see, that's part of the problem for the agents out there that don't get this. You need to pay attention to what I'm getting ready to say, because this is extremely important for you to listen to. Agents' compensation is flawed in the eyes of the consumer. The worse they perform, the more money you make. What are you doing to solve that problem? And see, we have the ability in the commercial arena to net out commissions, right? We can strip them out so the premiums come down below, down to the level they would be if, without me getting paid my 15% or whatever that is. And then we can charge a fee directly to our clients. So in this particular case, I told the guy, I'm like, look, let's just put this on a flat $50,000 fee. You don't need to pay me because you've had some issues with, your property being overly high due to the hurricanes and everything else. I'm comfortable we can get done what we need to get done. And he had never even heard that before. He'd never heard anybody come in and be willing to give them a flat compensation and, number one, do that option, but B, be transparent about it, right? How many people do you think don't even know how much commission an agent makes? You can put 15 disclaimers in the front of a proposal. You're flipping through those lightning fast. All they want to see is how much it costs. So I have no problem. I tell my prospects all the time, my favorite topic to discuss with you is my compensation. Let's talk about how I get paid and how much. And so that's a whole different animal when you're going down that road. Is you're giving people creative solutions and you're showing them that you want to be an extension of their team. You don't want to get rich at their expense. And if you do that, you're golden. Now, why did I do that? Because I knew that in a couple of years, the mod was going to be low, but I already set the benchmark of my compensation at 50 grand. So when I did the work to make the premiums drop, I was actually making more money on fee in the long term than I would have made in commission. And I could go after raises based on my performance. We could have predetermined benchmarks that say, if I can get your experience mod down by 10%, I want another $15,000 in fee. Well, is that a bad decision? I don't think so, because if you drop, $50,000 in comp premium and you bought that for a $15,000 raise to the guy who did it for you, you're ahead. 100%. But if you're a commission monkey, you're never going to operate that way.
Love it. Again, solving problems, right? I mean, it makes sense. I would love to give you $15,000 so I can make
you to give me $15,000.
So then we're on the same page. I love it. I love it. I love your thought process between all this, and the way you approach the agency is on such a human level. That I mean, that's the reason why you've been so successful at this, and you think outside the box. And I think it's pretty rare in this industry. I mean, maybe not that rare, but I mean, yeah, pretty rare in this industry to find.
You know what I think? I think the most creative people in the industry are the ones that have been abused or have been dirt poor. The poorest and most abused people are the ones who find the most creative ways to elevate themselves to a level above the people that either, didn't give them the chance or whatever else. I'll never forget it, man. I mean, I don't remember if I shared this the first time I talked. I told you about me going in and talking to 10 people. No. Different than that. I came out of the grocery industry and I went to a dozen agencies and nobody could help me. Nobody wanted to give me an opportunity. I was willing to work for peanuts. I just wanted a chance to go in and work hard and prove myself. And I went into an agency that was a legacy agency in this area and took a personality test, one of those Omnia profiles. And I got a call from the recruiter and they asked me how I thought it went. I said, I thought it was awesome. I really liked the guys. I would love to have an opportunity to go work there. I think I could do well for them. And the recruiter said, yeah, they didn't get the same vibe about you. And I said, oh, okay. And they said, yeah, they took the personality test results and, I understand you're a big boy. I'm just going to say that you weren't right for them. And I said, no, I can take it. Tell me what they said. They said, well, they just don't think you have the backbone to be successful in this industry. I said, oh, okay. Tell me what I can't do and then go watch me do that 10 times better than anybody else you had, right? So how I reacted to that was I finally got a job in an agency and then I went after that agency, but I didn't go after anybody. I went after the top producer in that agency in his book of business. And every single time I pulled an account from him, I sent the guy who wouldn't hire me a dozen roses and a note thanking for him for motivating me to go out and kick his tail on the streets. And as a result, my book was where it was.
That is so awesome. How many dozen roses did you send him?
At least a dozen.
I love it.
Any response from those roses?
No.
Thank you.
No. I was a mere peon, man. He probably had no clue.
Yeah, he didn't even know who you were.
Meanwhile, I pulled about $300,000 in revenue out of his agency. So.
Yeah. And then he got in trouble from his wife because he was getting flowers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think I'd like to go one other place and then we'll let you go. I know you're super busy and you probably have to get home so you don't get in trouble, but you have a unique approach to hiring too and how you find your people. You brought it up on the last one, but just in case they missed it, give us a snippet of that because I think it's incredible.
Yeah, again, I know I keep saying this, but there's ways you can do this in personal lines agencies too, I'm sure. But, again, it goes back to what I said. My philosophy is for how I hire people, right? Or not hire people, but I don't want to make 10 calls to get one appointment. I want to make one call to get 10. And an easy way to do that is to develop channel partnerships. Personal lines, everybody's focusing on realtors and loan officers and that whole strategy that's, basically being used by tons and tons of people. And so we do the same thing. I look for people that are business to business salespeople. And one thing I didn't talk about last time that's part of this process is I've got a client profile form that I fill out on everybody that's in our book of business. And we put that into our CRM, but I ask them, I want to know who they buy their payroll from, who do they buy their office supplies from, who do they buy their credit card processing, who's their lawyer, who's their accountant. And then I ask them, of these people, who do you think I would have the best synergy with? And they always tell me, and then I ask them to make an introduction. And so my goal in that is if this person is selling payroll to my client, that's a $50 million a year company, there's a really good chance they're selling payroll to other companies that are doing $50 million a year in sales, which means they're my new best friend. I want to be able to refer business to them, because I know that if they're satisfying my client, I can do that without putting my reputation in jeopardy. And I want them to refer business to me. And so we do that. We set that up on a formal relationship where we meet once a month. And every time we meet, it's 2 booked appointments. I take 2 booked appointments to my referral partner, and they bring 2 booked appointments to me. That's not, hey, call this guy. I told him you might call him, and he's halfway expecting it. Maybe he'll answer. No, right. It's we walk into your client, and we sit down, and you're in the meeting with me, and we talk shop, just like I'm going to do for you. And I look at that relationship over 3 or 4 months, and I see how it's going. If it's going well, I always plant the seed. And I just say, look, you're an awesome salesperson. It just blows my mind that you're sitting here hawking payroll for a living. There's got to be better opportunities for you out there. You can't be making that much money. And within 20, they'll defend their position every time. But then within 24 hours, I always get an email or a phone call that says, hey man, what are you talking about yesterday? You know something I don't know? You got a deal? And so we meet again. And I take our production reports. And so, I'll look at them and, we'll use $200,000 over 4 months is reasonable based on the size of accounts we're going after. And I'll show them, look, man, we brought in 200,000 in revenue over the course of the last 4 months since we've been referring business back and forth with each other. If you were on my team, you would have made $80,000 in income for that because I pay 40% on new business. And I'm just wondering, did you make $80,000 over the last 4 months selling payroll? I mean, they might make $80,000 a year, you know? And then we talk and just say, you know, tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. You know, we'll get you what you need first and you can go out and earn what you want, but I'm going to give you a platform to do that. And so we identify it, and then we just have a code inside of HubSpot, just like they have in agency management systems. Anytime something gets referred that we close from that person, we slot it to that referral code. And when our revenue between new and renewal business that they've referred gets to their need level and they're willing to make the jump, we make them the offer to come on board, and they walk in the door and I hand them the book of business that they referred. Now, agents by and large are cheap. So I usually get the question of, well, why would you give it to them? Well, because they gave it to me. You know, I mean, I babysat that revenue long enough for them to come on board. There's no risk to them because they have a revenue stream built already. There's no risk to me because they have a revenue stream built already. And I'm not worried about retention because these are their clients. They're walking into a book of business of people that they've already represented, right? So why in the world do I have to worry about that? And so I have a pipeline of producers that's anywhere between really 12 and 18-month process from the time we start that conversation to the time that we bring them into the front door and indoctrinate them. And I always have an idea of who I'm hiring, where they're coming from. And the beauty of it is twofold. Number one, if I get to the 4-month mark and I don't like them and I don't think they're going to fit the culture, I don't ever have to plant the seed. They never know. They never know I was interviewing them for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
If they last and they're going to come on board and it takes them a year to get to where they need to be, over that year, they've been on 4 appointments a month with me, the 2 they booked and the 2 I booked. At 48 appointments with a prospect that's not even your employee yet. I can see how they interface with their client, how they display their value proposition, how they open, how they close, and then they have the same reciprocity on my side of the table. So that when they walk in the front door, there's no questions or feeling out period. It's just a matter of getting them into our sales process and helping them understand what needs to happen on the insurance side of things. And it works very, very well.
Both sides completely bought in.
Absolutely. And you know what? If they don't hit the number, I don't ever have to make the offer, right? I don't have to plant the seed, but if I plant the seed and they don't hit the production number, I can just say, look, I don't think this is going to work. You're not hitting the numbers you need because I don't want you to come on board and not be able to validate what you need a year from now because you're slow in bringing business in. Either ramp it up or let's just keep this as a referral relationship. And if things heat up, we can talk again in the future.
It's almost the same challenge that you were given. In a way, you know, like, well, he didn't give you the opportunity, but
that's why I give people the opportunity.
Yeah,
I operate with an edge all the time, right? So one of the reasons I give people from outside the industry opportunity is because that opportunity wasn't given to me. So I just took it upon myself to be the guy who tries to give people from outside the industry an opportunity to come in and produce. And that's how I think, but I think that way because I had no money. Okay.
Right.
I had to come up with a way to hire people that were already validated because when I started down this road, I didn't have the ability to give producers a draw. I didn't have the ability to guarantee salaries. I had to figure out a way to have revenue flow in and support them. So, I mean, that goes back to what I said before. People who were extremely poor or weren't treated right are always going to be the most motivated to find the most creative solutions. And that's where I operate from.
Love it. David, this is crazy, man. I love everything you do. I love the thought process behind it, and I love that it's not sneaky. I love that it's all based on empathy, love, and care for others, and it's awesome, man. It's awesome to see all that you do. And if anybody's listening and thinks that any of that was at all helpful, you gotta listen to his podcast because he's dropping bombs left and right.
Dropping huge bombs. And it's available it's on all the places, right? iTunes and
we're a big deal, man. We're everywhere.
Yeah. That's right.
I say that tongue in cheek, but yeah, we're on any place you can find a podcast.
Yeah.
Although I am
cool.
trying to get on iHeartRadio. Are you guys on there yet?
Yes. Well, yeah, we go through Buzzsprout.
How long did that
It takes
process
a little
take?
while. It takes a while.
It's been like
I need
2 or 3 weeks.
It's weird because I've noticed it'll disconnect and then you have to reconnect it, and I don't know.
Well,
does anybody use iHeartRadio?
Well, they're advertising themselves as the #1 podcast platform now. So
I don't understand how. I mean, who uses that? But there must be. Maybe that's why we're not on it, because I just said that.
Yeah, well, and I'm guilty by association. Thanks.
Well, we'll never be on iHeart.
Yeah, we'll figure out a new way to develop podcast distribution and make it our own, and then sell it to other people. That's my MO.
Yeah,
perfect.
There we go.
So, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they get more David?
If you can't find me, then you have a problem.
Perfect.
You can Google. I mean, I'm kidding, obviously, but LinkedIn, I'm very active. Facebook, I'm very active on all social channels. You can hit me on email at david@floridariskpartners.com or any of my websites.
Cool.
Love it, man.
And if you need wedding insurance.
Yeah, if you're in Florida and you need wedding insurance, flweddinginsurance.com. I'm your guy.
Well, thanks so much for not only doing this once, but now a second time, especially after you just talked to us yesterday. And I
feel like I'm training for a marathon, man. Like this is too good. This is 2 good treadmill sessions in a row. I'm out of breath.
It is.
I'm out of breath as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate the opportunity, guys. I always like talking with you, and I'm glad that we could just share a few things that we're doing, and hopefully it helps some of the people who listen.
For
Love
sure.
It. Exactly.
Thanks a lot, man.
100%.
All right, gentlemen. We'll holler at you later. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
Hey, you've got to check out the Insurance Dudes Inner Circle, coming soon, where you get extended interviews as well as live coffee talks in our private Facebook group. Join the mailing list today at theinsurancedudespodcast.com. Hey, thanks for checking out the Insurance Dudes. Hey, please subscribe. We got some really great stuff coming out.